This video is brought to you by Skillshare, an online learning community for creators with thousands of topics to explore across design, business, art, music, and more. Skillshare is giving away a free trial of Premium to the first 1,000 people who use my link in the description below. More on them in a bit. Let the splendor of diamond, pearl, and ruby vanish like the magic shimmer of the rainbow. Only let this one teardrop, this Taj Mahal, glisten spotlessly bright on the cheek of time, forever and ever. These are the closing verses of the poem Shah Jahan by Indian poet and Nobel Prize laureate Rabindranath Tagore. Dedicated to Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, the poem celebrates his most timeless creation, the Taj Mahal Mausoleum, one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. In today's Geographics, we will discover the history, legends, and symbols behind one of the most visited and recognizable monuments in the world. We will learn how the emperor chose to erect it to honor his late beloved wife, and how this could be just another myth. In today's episode, we're going to focus on the iconic white marbled dome mausoleum, referring to it as the Taj Mahal. But to be precise, the correct name for it is the Rauza-i-Munawwara. The term Taj Mahal actually refers to the vast architectural complex that it is a part of. This walled-in complex is located in the city of Agra in the state of Uttar Pradesh, India, which was part of the Mughal Empire in existence from 1526 to 1857. The Taj Mahal complex covers an area of about 0.27 square kilometers, or about 54 American football fields. Most of the surface is taken up by charbagh, a typical Indian Persian quadrilateral garden divided into 4 sectors by 4 canals. The southern side is delimited by 2 subsidiary courtyards and a gated entrance. The northern side, closer to the river Yamuna, is occupied by a raised terrace which supports the mausoleum and 4 minarets. 2 symmetrically flanking buildings are placed equidistantly on either side. The mausoleum itself, like the rest of the complex, is an elegant and starkly symmetrical structure. This appears as a large multi-chambered cube measuring approximately 55 meters each side. The corners have been cut at an angle or chamfered so that the surface is actually an irregular octagon. Each facade features a wide iwan or archway flanked by smaller iwans. The most striking feature is the Amrud, the central dome characteristic of Mughal and Indo-Persian architecture. The central Amrud, peaking at 73 meters, is surrounded by 4 smaller domes at each corner of the building. The sense of quadrilateral perfection is enhanced by the 4 minarets, erected at a slightly tilted angle to prevent them from falling over onto the main building in the event of an earthquake. A casual glance at the photo of the Taj Mahal Mausoleum may not reveal the exquisite, intricate decorative work which graces its facades. The Mughal artists employed techniques imported from far and wide, such as inlays with semi-precious stones, bas-reliefs, and painstakingly carved patterns, which make the hardest of marbles look like the most delicate of bridal laces. The same motifs can be found in the interior, especially in the cenotaph, where the Emperor Shah Jahan and his favorite spouse share a resting place. All around the vast halls, expert calligraphers left their mark using chisels as if they were quills, inscribing the walls with verses from the Quran. The large hall underneath the dome is shaped as a perfect octagon with about 7 meters on each side. The number 8 is replicated in the geometrical pattern adorning the floor, which consists of octagonal stars alternating with pointed shapes carved in black marble and inlaid in white. The hall was conceived as the memorial cenotaph for the Empress Mumtaz Mahal, but her actual resting place is in the lower hall, not open to visitors. The rectangular room is entirely covered with marble and is more austerely decorated. At the center stand the 2 cenotaphs, which cover the tombs of Mumtaz and her husband. They are similar in style, except for a few distinctive elements. Following Mughal tradition, the emperor's tomb is topped by a sculpture resembling a pen case as a symbol of his power to issue orders. His wife's cenotaph is decorated instead with a writing tablet, a symbol of subordination to the ruler. But according to what we know about Mumtaz, she was no mere subordinate to the emperor. As it is not possible to separate the history of the Taj Mahal Mausoleum from those who rest within it, it's time that we get to know them. Future Emperor Shah Jahan was born in 1592 as Prince Khurram. At the age of 15, he fell madly in love with a Persian princess called Arjumand Banu Begum, who was visiting a bazaar with their courtiers. The two were soon engaged and celebrated their marriage in 1612. According to Muslim tradition, the prince took 2 more wives, but Arjumand would always remain his favorite. Khurram became emperor with the name Shah Jahan in 1628 and entrusted his beloved with the royal seal, involving her in the active running of his empire. He also bestowed her with a new title, Mumtaz Mahal, the jewel or crown of the palace. Theirs was definitely a happy union, considering that since their wedding they had conceived 13 children. The last one was born in 1631, but the complications of labor would claim the life of Mumtaz. While the empress lay on her deathbed, Shah Jahan promised to never remarry and to build the richest monument ever seen on earth to honor her memory. This was, of course, the Taj Mahal complex with its mausoleum. The name itself may derive from Mumtaz Mahal, but according to other interpretations, it may originate from the Tejo Mahalaya, a temple dedicated to Shiva, which once stood on the same location. Shah Jahan immediately set to work to build his eulogy of stone and marble. First, he carefully selected the construction site, a process which took nearly 6 months. His chosen location, close to the river Yamuna, did not make for a solid foundation, but the emperor was undeterred. His engineers dug a network of deep wells filled with stones, debris, and iron to provide a stable, durable base. The foundations were then topped with a layer of ebony, which would eventually be covered with a further elevated platform in marble. Next, the emperor assembled a dream team of the best construction talent Asia could offer. For example, the Ottoman Ismail Afandi, who designed the main dome, the Persian Amanat Kahn, chief calligrapher in charge of decorating the mausoleum walls in ornate inscriptions taken from the Quran, or the sculptor Chiran Jalal from Delhi. He and his team of stone carvers may have been trained by Italian marble artists invited to court by the emperor. This fact may have been at the origin of a curious myth, according to which the chief architect of the project was the Venetian Geronimo Veroneo. This story was first circulated by a contemporary source, a Spanish friar called Sebastian Manrique, who happened to be in Lahore at the time. Records of the time attest to the presence of Veroneo working in the region, but he was a goldsmith, not an architect. It is more realistic that the chief designer and overall project manager was the Persian Ustad Isa Khan, who worked in close cooperation with the emperor himself. The two eventually supervised a force of 20,000 laborers recruited across northern India. The workers carried all the way to Agra the whitest marble from Makrana in Rajasthan, 28 different types of precious stones from Ceylon and Afghanistan, jade and crystal from China, and sapphires from Arabia. More than 1,000 elephants were enlisted to do the heavy lifting. After 22 years of incessant work, the Taj Mahal was finally inaugurated in 1653. Alright, we'll get back to today's video in just a minute, but first, here's a word from today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creators, inspiring discovery through creativity. It offers members thousands of topics to explore across the arts and social sciences, everything from graphic design and animation to marketing skills and entrepreneurship. And of course, YouTube. You could be the next person making a YouTube channel just like this with the help of Skillshare. Unlike some platforms where you have to pay for individual topics or classes, Skillshare's premium membership scores you unlimited access to every subject available, so you can discover new skills at your own pace, which is pretty nice. A course that I would personally recommend is, it's related to YouTube, of course, YouTube Success. It is run by a super famous YouTuber, Marques Brownlee, also known as MKBHD, and he covers all sorts of stuff that will really be a benefit if you'd like to get started on YouTube. It's a great course, and of course, it's on Skillshare. Skillshare are also adding new premium classes every week, and of course, it's ad-free, so you can focus on what you're learning. And just in case you're not a native English speaker, their entire catalog has subtitles in Spanish, French, Portuguese, and German. Skillshare is giving away a free trial of its premium membership to help you explore your creativity. If you click the link in the description box below, that's for the first 1,000 people only. After that, Skillshare is super affordable. Its annual plan works out to just about $8 per month, so give Skillshare a try. And now let's get back to today's video. When the mausoleum was completed, Shah Jahan and his team of architects and artists were in awe of the monument they had created. According to a widespread story, the emperor wanted for this marble to remain unparalleled on Earth. The only way to ensure this was to put his creative team out of action. One by one, each designer, craftsman, artisan, and mason had their eyes gouged out and their hands amputated. Luckily, this cruel tale is just that. It's a story, and no one can corroborate it. In fact, another widespread myth seems to contradict the most gruesome redundancy scheme in history, the legend of the Black Taj Mahal linked to the emperor's death. 5 years after the completion of the mausoleum, Shah Jahan was deposed by his son Aurangzeb and put under house arrest at the Agra fort. This is where he died on the 22nd of January 1666. As per his wishes, the former emperor was buried at the Taj Mahal next to his wife's cenotaph. As we discussed earlier, the monument was a sort of physical, concrete ode to symmetry, and yet Shah Jahan's tomb seems to disobey such geometrical rules. It appears to have been squashed next to Mumtaz's resting place, breaking up the sense of symmetry in the chamber. Was the emperor's cenotaph a rushed afterthought conceived by his son? This notion developed into a wider theory. Shah Jahan's grand plan was not to butcher his workforce, but to have them build a twin mausoleum for himself located on the other side of the Yamuna River. This time he would have used black marble instead, a black Taj Mahal. The theory originated with a rumor spread by French traveller Jean-Baptiste Tavernier back in 1665. It was further fueled by British archaeologist Archibald Campbell Carleyle in 1871. The scholar had visited the Mehtab Bagh, or moonlit garden, just opposite the Taj Mahal across the Yamuna. Here, he found some black structural elements which he interpreted as the foundations of the fabled Black Taj Mahal. But those ruins turned out to have been blackened by the elements over time, and so no solid proof of the twin mausoleum could be found. As much as we love a good folktale, I'm going to head back to the actual history of the monument now. Only 4 years after its completion, Prince Aurangzeb mentions in a letter that cracks started to appear in its walls. The exact cause remains unknown, but it's speculated it may be linked to the Yamuna River. Its periodic dry spells may indirectly affect the ebony at the base of the monument. This material requires a certain degree of moisture to preserve its integrity, lest it begin to crack and subside. In 1810, cracks appeared again, this time much more serious. An advisory committee found that the northern side of the Taj Mahal was lower than the south side by 3.5 centimeters. The entire building was tilting towards the river. Luckily, this did not result in major structural damage, thus far at least. But the jewel of Agra was not immune from harm. Since the start of the decline of the Mughal Empire, its rich decorations have been regularly vandalized by looters who chiseled out precious and semi-precious stones from its walls. The greatest amount of damage was dealt during the rebellion of 1857, in which Sepoy soldiers revolted against the East India Company. British forces and officials also did their part in chipping away at the immaculate beauty of the mausoleum. But not everybody in the colonial administration was blind to architectural marvel. As early as 1834, Governor-General of India, Lord William Bentinck, marveled at the Taj Mahal, praising it as the most beautiful mausoleum in the world, more costly and yet chaster and more elegant than the chapel of the Medicis in Florence. Bentinck was known as a frugal administrator who always tried to raise a penny wherever and whenever he could. According to a rumor that originated in the 1830s, he had designs to dismantle the mausoleum and sell its marble at auction. He desisted only when his forecasts showed that the operation would be at a loss. Historian Percival Spear debunked that myth in 1949, proving that officials in his employ did indeed sell some marble, but that was taken from the fort at Agra. Then in 1861, Major General and Army Engineer Alexander Cunningham founded the Archaeological Survey of India, still in operation. This survey took care of cataloguing and preserving many of the historical marvels of the subcontinent, including, of course, the Taj Mahal complex. The site went through a grand restoration project completed in 1909 under the aegis of British Viceroy Lord Curzon. The endeavour was definitely beneficial to the preservation of this marvel, but it wasn't without controversy. As part of the project, the original Mughal-style gardens, graced by tall trees, were re-landscaped into English-style lawns. According to taste, you may feel that these lawns add to the rational, symmetrical elegance of the Taj Mahal complex, or that they would be more at home at the Henley-on-Thames Cricket Club. In any case, the efforts of the Anglo-Indian administration contributed to the popularity of the monument, which grew exponentially during the late 19th and early 20th century. European visitors gasped at its architectural marvels and choked back a tear while listening to the story of Mumtaz and her loving husband. But in later years, other interpretations have emerged about this origin story, the character of Shah Jahan and the symbolism behind the Taj Mahal. According to art historian Wayne Edison Begley, the lore around Jahan and Mumtaz's love story has swept under the carpet many accounts of the Mughal emperor's life, which are far from flattering. For example, back in 1617, English ambassador Sir Thomas Roe described the then princes as ravenous and tyrannical, possessed of such a pride as may teach Lucifer. And in the 1620s, the prince apparently ordered the assassination of his older brother and 5 other relatives to secure his ascent to the throne. His supposed chastity after the death of Mumtaz Mahal may also have been a myth. Contemporary European sources claimed that the emperor indulged in repeated sexual encounters with the wives of his officials and even with his own daughter, Giahanara. An Italian witness, one Minucci, even wrote that the cause of the emperor's death was a urinary disorder known as strangury, caused by the excessive use of aphrodisiacs to bolster his manhood. According to Begley, Shah Jahan was indeed devoted to Mumtaz and that her death acted as a catalyst for the construction of the monument, but its main purpose was not to pay eternal homage to her memory. Indeed, the museum's main goal was to symbolize Jahan's own imperial glory, to celebrate his ambition, a tangible manifestation of his magnificent obsession with his own greatness. The Taj Mahal should therefore be interpreted in the context of Shah Jahan's obsession with absolute power and its external symbols, of which he left a few. For example, the magnificent, exquisite, bejeweled Peacock Throne, or Shah Jahanabad, the new capital city erected in the emperor's name. Begley also offers its interpretation on the deep religious symbolism embedded into the structural elements and garden layout of the complex. The 4 water canals of the garden, for example, may symbolize the 4 rivers of paradise mentioned in the Quran. The raised marble tank at the center of the grounds were intended as a replica of the Al-Quthab, the celestial tank of abundance seen by the Prophet Muhammad during his ascension to paradise. The centerpiece of the complex, the dome of the Mausoleum, bears a striking resemblance to the back of Mughal thrones. As such, the structure may stand as a symbol of the throne of God, upon which the Almighty will sit in judgment at the end of times. According to Persian mystical treatises, the throne of God rests on 4 supports, which may be interpreted as the 4 Artad, a particular hierarchy of saints. This concept may be at the origin of the 4 minarets surrounding the main building. Finally, Begley points out how the numerous calligraphy inscriptions draw from passages about the day of resurrection, the final judgment, and the pleasures of paradise with which God will reward the faithful. So, Shah Jahan apparently has an obsession with symbols related to power in the end of times. By combining the 2 notions, Begley theorized that the Taj Mahal was the emperor's attempt to recreate paradise on earth, to mirror God's absolute beauty, or even to rival and surpass the Almighty's creation. It may have been a teardrop shed by the most grieving widower in history, or a testament to his unbridled ambition, but it is undeniable that the Taj Mahal deserves its place among the UNESCO World Heritage Sites and the marvels of the modern world. According to India Times, the infamous and mysterious conman known as Natwalal exploited its fame for one of his confidence tricks. The scam artist posed as a government official to approach foreign wealthy visitors, offering them a chance to buy the monument. Apparently, he succeeded in selling it not once, not twice, but 3 times. We could not corroborate this story through any other source, nor could find any detail about the asking price, but if you know anything more about this legendary trickster, well, that's what the comment section's for. What we know is that the majority of visitors to the Taj Mahal are happy simply to pay the entrance fee. The ticket price is 775 rupees, or about $10. The mausoleum and complex attracts an average of 3 million tourists every year, so that's an annual income of $30 million. Not too shabby. Unfortunately, these sightseers bring something else besides their cash. Their breath. Over time, the excessive humidity caused by human presence has accumulated and is gradually damaging the marble and intricate decorations in the interior. Externally, the wall surfaces are also under attack. The once gleaming snow-white marble, which changed hue depending on the time and light of day, is turning into a drab light yellow. The culprits are the pollutants released into the air by nearby factories and daily traffic in Agra. At least for this threat, there is a temporary solution. The Taj Mahal is regularly treated to a spa day. The facade is cleaned with Multiani Mitti, a mud pack, also known in English as Fuller's Earth. This concoction is popularly used as a facial preparation and skin cleansing product, but it can also decolorize hard surfaces. What is more worrying are the continued effects of the depletion of the Yamuna. The river was already subject to dry periods due to natural causes, but in the latter part of the 20th century, these have been made worse by the construction of dams and canals. Moreover, local industries draw large quantities of water from the river. And if you allow us to end ends with another poetic image. It may be that when the flow of tears eventually runs dry, the jewel that is the Taj Mahal may sink and vanish like a magic shimmer of the rainbow. We hope the most beautiful mausoleum of the world will continue to cast its shadow for eternity. If you've been lucky enough to see it with your own eyes, please leave us your impressions in the comments. Now, just before you leave today, maybe you're looking for something else to watch, why not check out my new channel called Warographics? Want to know all of the details about some of history's most famous battles and wars? Come join me on Warographics, from Sherman's March to the Sea to Operation Barbarossa. If it's got people fighting each other, or occasionally animals, we will cover it. There is a link below.